I think that's actually supposed to be the sound of a jet engine to give it sound, but we want to take a closer look at the market for electric vehicles now with Karl Brauer. He is a senior analyst at Kelley Blue Book. He's joining us from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and he works for a company which rates the value of cars and assesses the auto market. Karl, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Well, let me start, Karl, with this news about China considering expanding production licenses to companies other than automakers to make electric vehicles. Could that give China the ability to become even a bigger player in this space?
It absolutely is the way to go on trying to get the electric technology up to speed. You might have heard that Elon Musk recently gave away all the patents for his Tesla models for the same reason. And the idea is to just get more people involved, increase the interest, and increase the resources being thrown at electric car development.
So as I understand it, electric vehicle infrastructure is a real problem for the Chinese and many other countries. In fact, I read in Caixin that about half of the charging stations at the Shenzhen airport have fallen into disrepair because they're not getting enough use. So what market levers are going to change that? Because you really can't have one without the other.
Yeah, exactly. That's the tough part, is having people feel safe that or confident that they're going to be able to recharge their vehicles once they buy them, and not pull up to these charging stations and have them out of service. And I mean, that really is the kind of thing where for the initial transition, you're going to need some help from probably government subsidies to maintain these things and get them up to speed, because until you have enough charging stations, people aren't going to want to buy them, and until people buy electric cars, there's not going to be a reason to keep the charging stations in working order. So someone's got to move first, and hopefully maybe the government could help get the infrastructure in place.
Are we seeing government act in anywhere around the world to make that happen?
We're seeing it in the U.S., and we're seeing it in certain cities within the U.S. that are very environmentally oriented, where they're working harder. They're providing free charging stations. Tesla's been investing in their superchargers, and now they're going to let anyone use them, not just Tesla owners. So there are efforts to try to get this infrastructure in place.
Now, you've been talking about charging stations, but I understand that at least the power sector in China, for example, is actually really more interested in a battery swapping type of service. Has that caught on anywhere, or is that still an existing debate in the marketplace?
It's an ongoing debate. They've talked about that. Tesla talked about it too. They've shown an example of where they could change the battery out twice in less time than it took to fill up a comparable luxury car with gasoline. But that's still, so it's, in theory, it's a great solution. But again, now you don't just need charging stations, you need battery changing stations with humans probably, maybe mechanically it could do it, and of course a storage place to put all these batteries that are being charged while they're waiting for a car to come in and use them.
So it sounds like a country or even a city needs to choose between the two, even to get the infrastructure off the ground then.
Exactly.
Well, you brought up Tesla earlier, Karl. They are, of course, working on this issue of infrastructure by giving out their patents to the competition. What's the motivation there, and how far do we expect maybe this technology to reach around the world?
Tesla knows that it can't do this by itself. It cannot convert Americans into electric car buyers all by itself. It needs help. And so that's why it's opening up its patents. It wants every other manufacturer to have every possibility to create their own electric vehicles. Because, if Elon really wants to get everyone in an electric vehicle and cut pollution and switched over from gasoline and oil, then he knows he wants everyone to help out, and he wants to make that as likely as possible. And of course, in China, they're doing the same thing. They're trying to incentivize, or they're talking about giving legislation to let non-automotive companies build electric cars, which normally is a big deal to get through the kind of bureaucracy over there. So these are the kind of things that it's going to take to really make it work on a mass level.
Let me ask you your opinion, and I don't know if you've gotten to ride one of these electric Harleys yet, but how popular do you think they're going to be?
I think there's going to be certainly a lot of interest because it's this very cool looking motorcycle, and it's this new idea behind a Harley-Davidson powertrain. But it's always going to come down to price and performance. That's really it. That's why electric cars continue to be held back themselves. If you end up having to pay more for a vehicle and have less functionality, it's tough to get that to resonate with a mass audience. It'll resonate with people who've got the money to have kind of an interesting vehicle, but most people need vehicles as real-world transportation, and that's why so far it's been hard to get electric cars above, like a third of a percentage of the total market.
Of course, one of the motivators for Chinese buyers is to reduce pollution, to save on fuel costs. What's the appeal of the electric car given, I guess what I'm asking is pollution. Do we know how much less pollution a vehicle like this causes?
Well, it's always tough with electric cars because you don't know where the energy is coming from. If you could charge an electric vehicle from a solar panel grid, that would be amazing. You'd literally be getting free energy and completely pollution-free energy. If you use a nuclear power plant, besides the nuclear waste, it doesn't cause any air pollution. If you use a coal-fired energy plant,
right.
Now you're transitioning the pollution from the tailpipe to the power plant exhaust stack. So that's what's tough, is you never really know what any individual car's contribution is because it's hard to know where they're being charged.
Karl Brauer, we'll leave it there. Thanks for your time this evening. Karl Brauer coming to us from Kelley Blue Book in Ann Arbor, Michigan.